When board games give us more, we're rolling with more. Hi, I'm Will, and with me as always is the overly intoxicated one herself,
Sarah.
And today we're doing a review of Taverns of Tiefenthal Open Doors expansion. Right. Sarah, tell us a bit about this expansion.
All right, so this expansion includes 4 modules that can be mixed into the base game as desired. The rules do recommend 2 or 3 at a time. So let's go over each of them and see how they change the game. The Wine Cellar module. So this is going to add sommelier cards, quack doctor cards, wine cellar boards, and wine markers. The 2 cards will be put into the supply.
The sommeliers and the
quack doctors.
Quacks.
So you can add...
That's from Quacks of Quedling.
Yes. So they'll get added into those rows so you can acquire them as you play the game.
Yes.
Each player will get a cellar board and 2 tokens. So Will, you want to tell us how the quack cards and the sommelier work?
Okay, so the quack cards are like guests. You can buy them with 2 beers. When you draw them, they'll go off to the side of your board, and if they're left there, they will give you automatically 1 money. Or if you have a guest that has a one-time bonus, you can return the quack to the supply and re-trigger the one-time bonus.
Yep. For
the sommeliers, when they come out, they'll go off to the side of the board and they will trigger one of your wine tokens. That means you can, since you have 2 wine tokens, you can trigger at most 2 sommeliers. More can come out, but only 2 will trigger. Those tokens will go on the rightmost of your guests. So the last 2 guests at most.
Right.
And they will act as if a die of the appropriate number was placed on them, thus triggering them.
Yep.
So this whole module is essentially like a big money expansion, and it frees up that aspect of the game.
Yeah, definitely feels like that opens up. All right, the guest room module. So this adds guest room boards, priest cards, and reservation markers. So the priest card, everybody gets 1 card. It will go to their discard pile. It is a guest, just like the... Is it like a normal guest? Or
like a normal guest.
Okay, like normal guest. So it takes up a table.
Yes.
When you activate it, it will move 1 space on the monastery track.
Yes.
And I believe it took a 1 to activate.
It took a 1 to activate.
Okay.
Now, the guest rooms are what a lot of people get wrong, and so they're a bit mixed on this module. They're, I guess, fine with it after they figure out how it works. Here's how it works. So, on the front side, there are 4 rooms, and they're corresponding to numbers 2, 3, 4, and 5. If you flip it over, same number of rooms, same numbers. The only difference is side 1 can accommodate 1 noble. The second side can accommodate 2 nobles.
Correct.
When you come to drawing out your cards, and the first noble you come across will get tucked under one of the rooms. Thus, it doesn't take up a table. So that's really nice. I think when it comes to the second side, the second noble has to go to a different room.
Yes.
It's not clear, but I'm thinking that's how it works.
Right.
Anyway, you have all your cards drawn out. Now, when it comes time to drafting dice, and you draft a die corresponding to the room the noble is in, the first time you do that, it triggers the ability. It doesn't use the dice at all. It simply triggers the ability.
Right.
So each of the rooms will have a different ability. Like, for example, the reservation room is room 3, and it has the reservation token. Basically, you take off that token, you draw another bonus card, put the token on it, you get to play with that card, and then at the end of the turn, the card that has the reservation token, you can choose, do I discard it or put it back on top of my deck to see it again? But that just happens once when or if you draw a 3 and you have a noble in the 3rd room. So it's nice in the fact that it frees up a table for a noble and gives you passive abilities that don't burn dice.
Yep. The unfortunate part is many people get the rule wrong because the rules are not well written. They think that it uses up the dice so that you can't use it on normal placement phase.
Yeah.
The bartender module. This adds bartender tiles, reputation track, guest book, IOU tiles, and critic cards. So the critic
Sounded like
card.
you said credit cards.
It's hard to say.
Yes.
So this card will start in your discard pile, and everybody gets one.
Just like the priest.
Right. So it's a guest, just like the priest. When you activate it with a 1, it will move 2 spaces on your reputation track.
So the module does warn you, you need to be playing up to the level of where reputation is included in the base game.
Correct. The bartenders have asymmetric abilities, and so all those extra components that I listed, each one of those corresponds to a specific bartender. So there's a bartender that gives you that upgraded reputation track or that upgraded guest book. Or there's a lot of them that just do different things when certain things happen.
Yes.
All right, the mayor module. This adds order tiles, order markers, the mayor cards, and scroll bars. So the mayor card itself can only be acquired once you've completed the 3 orders. It's like a reward you get. And you also get a one-time bonus to upgrade any aspect of your player board. The mayor is a guest, so goes in onto a table. Any die you place on there gives you money equal to the value of that die. Now the order tiles themselves, these are basically goals and rewards, and they're randomly set up to have 3 requirements and 3 rewards. Once you complete a requirement, you move your marker from the left side of this whole scroll thing, because the scroll bars connect the
to make it like a book.
Yeah, make it like a book. So you move your marker over from the left to the right, also flipping it up, so you gain 5 points for every order you complete. You can then use the benefit once on your turn, anytime going forward. And if you do that, then you just take that marker that shows the 5 points and put it in front of you, so you know that you're going to gain 5 points, and you've also used the ability.
Yeah, it's 5 points whether you use the ability or not.
Right.
It's just, well, it's by the reward if you haven't used the ability. Right. It's by you if you have used.
Yep, pretty simple. All right, so those are all the modules. Let's go over the 2-player experience. Most of the modules don't really significantly change how it plays, except the bartenders.
Yes, the bartenders are very asymmetric, which means they aren't necessarily balanced extremely well against one another.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's definitely ones that seem more powerful, or at least I would say easier to use than others. And so if you have 2 players and one has a very easy to use ability and the other one is a more difficult to use ability, it's going to create an imbalance that is not, well, going to feel very good.
Right.
Also, the setup of the bartenders is weirdly different than 3 or 4 players for how you draft. Honestly, I think you should just stick to the 3 or 4 player drafting rules. For the 2-player, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. So in the higher player counts, you have 3 starting cards and 3 bartenders. A person who looks at them, they choose 1 of each, passes it to the next player, they draw 1 more of each, have the choice of 3 and 3, and it goes around till everybody has their starting thing. In the rules, it says set up 2 starting cards, 2 bartenders. First player chooses 1 of those things. The other person then chooses 1 of each, and then the first person just gets whatever's left over.
Which eliminates all the choice, which doesn't make any sense. Why would you do that to a 2-player game?
If anything, it ensures the imbalance that we've seen in the bartenders.
Yeah. So just do the 3 drafting. Just first person gets 3 cards, pick 1, hand the 2 you didn't take to the other player. They draw 1, now they have choice of 3.
Yeah.
I boggled my mind on why you would restrict it for 2 players.
Yeah.
It's a punishment. They don't like 2 players. That must be it.
Yeah.
Moving on to accessibility. As we've discussed, the rules are really not well written, especially for that room and the bartenders are just weird. But the room one specifically, when you draft a die and it activates a noble room, It does not use up that die. You still get to place it on your board. And we've seen other videos and other people posting on Board Game Geek getting it wrong. I don't blame them. The rules are not clear.
Yeah, this game expansion introduces a lot of nuance on top of a game that was already very well nuanced. What happens then is a lot of rules slip through the cracks.
Yeah. There's a lot of interactions between the different modules that are not well explained in the rules. So you're either going to just have to make a judgment, which you're just going to have to make a judgment, or you can go on Board Game Geek and see what people have discussed should happen. But yeah, there's a lot more rules adjudication than I thought there would be.
Yes.
As we discussed in our Rolling with 2 video, the graphic design is really poor. Play this in a well-lit room. Yeah, it's not very accessible on that, and it's very fiddly. So you've got to be aware of both of those things, that you're going to be messing with your player board, flipping tiles. And even here, we got even more tiles that you're having to play with. And it was weird, that roof tile.
Yes, it made setup even more of a cumbersome mess because, as Sarah pointed out, if you're not using a given module in this expansion, they give you tiles that are purely decorative so that it
doesn't look like you have a jagged end of a puzzle piece.
Yes.
Like, let's say you're just using the wine cellar. Well, so the wine cellar on 3 sides is flat, but it's got an indentation on one side because it's supposed to be put onto another board. I don't care. It doesn't bother me, but they added roof tiles so that it would flush it out and it would be solid on all sides. And then the thing for me that is just it wears down the connection points because it is just cardboard.
Yeah.
So they added more fiddliness just for the aestheticness of it, and it seemed weird to me.
But it also went with how the game was in the first place. So
yep.
Like, yeah, it's just more of that.
Same. And speaking of more, the setup time just takes longer, and the game was already a long game to set up. So these are some accessibility things that you'll have to keep in mind. This game adds more, which means more of the same issues.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about what we like and what we don't like. It makes for a much longer game, which is good and bad, depending on what you're looking for.
Yeah, this gave the opportunity of taking what could be, say, a heavy midweight and put it squarely in the lighter version of full heavyweight.
Yeah, it went from midweight to heavy very fully.
Yeah. And of course, that corresponds to the amount of time it'll take.
Right. And we thought all the modules were interesting, but we're not sure we'd want to always play with them. The bartenders did not feel great for a 2-player game. So I can imagine leaving those in the box more often, or making sure we don't have certain ones like the IOU one. And the reason why the IOU bartender feels so overpowered is there's no effort. You put 0 effort into that one. You flip a tile up.
You get that thing.
You get that benefit every turn. Other ones are, you have a new, reputation track. Well, I still have to move on the reputation track. Or when you do X, you get Y. Well, I still have to do X to get Y. And what if I'm not really going with that strategy? Whereas with the IOU bartender, we didn't come across a single instance where you couldn't use the benefit. And even if you couldn't use the benefit, you got a coin.
Yeah.
So
I never got to that level.
No, you always
I simply just adjusted like, oh, okay, what am I really trying to go for this turn? And I'll let the IOU help me decide because I'm just going with the flow.
Yes.
And then that allowed me to give more information into what dice I drafted.
Right. So that one is a bit overpowered, and I would especially say in a 2-player game. Now, it'd be great for if you're trying to introduce the game to somebody and you wanted to make it easier for that new player, give them the IOU bartender because it's very simple. Straightforward. Again, we didn't really care for how long the setup is. That's just kind of a downside. It's always going to be that way. But we did really enjoy the sommelier and the wine cellar because that opens up the money.
Yeah. Whenever you open up one aspect of the game, it allows you to dig into some of the deeper aspects of it. And I really feel like the sommelier and the quack, even though we didn't really use the quack, we definitely used the sommelier.
Yes.
And if you use it smartly, and make sure to eliminate your low value guests and hire your high value one, you're going to play with big money.
It's not the game where you actually managed to upgrade your whole board?
With, I think, the sommelier and...
Was it
the
the
bartender?
rooms? No, you sure it was the bar? Well, yeah, it would have been the bartender because you had the IOU bartender.
Yeah. No, it was the bartender and the mayor.
Oh, that was the one. Okay.
Yeah. I upgraded everything. I've never seen that happen before.
Yeah, I've never seen that happen either. All right, I think that's everything that we like and don't like about this expansion, so let's go on to our ratings.
Did we say who it's for?
That'll be after.
Okay. So, for our ratings, we gave the base game a 5 and a 6, with me a 6 and you a 5. Does Open Doors change anything for you?
Not significantly. It's one of those things that with this expansion, I think the only aspect I'd regularly want to play with would be the sommelier and then the noble rooms. I definitely didn't care for the bartenders. I think I'd play with the bartenders if we just said no on the IOU one. And then the mayor orders, I felt like it pulled my attention away from what I wanted to do with my tavern. So I felt like it was more of a distraction that I had to deal with, because if I didn't deal with it, I was just not going to get as many points as you, and therefore you were going to win. So I think for me, I'll stay at a 5 only because this didn't significantly add something that I will always want to play with.
Gotcha. For me, it changed to a 5.
Oh.
That doesn't normally happen with an expansion.
Yeah.
The problems are the fact that the added complexity and time, I don't necessarily think lead to a better experience.
Yeah.
Additionally, setup becomes cumbersome. And the one thing that really, really got me, and I had to rate it down, is the rules.
Oh, yeah.
The rules, this game could offer a whole ton of extra benefit if it was well explained. It is not. It has major holes in the rules of, I don't know what to do. And we're spending a good chunk of our playtime having to stop and look it up.
Yeah, I did spend, I think we got up at least 2 or 3 times, if not more, to go to BGG and be like, how did other people resolve this issue?
Is there an official rule on this?
Right.
What is going on?
Yeah.
And sometimes those took some fairly long searches just to make sure to play this game.
Yeah.
So I think it does all, where everything it did right in the base game and making it nice and tight, they still have some of that design in. I can definitely see where there's areas where they loosen things up, and it does feel neat and it's a good idea, but it almost feels like it wasn't fully thought out.
It wasn't as streamlined as it felt like in the base game, where it felt really well integrated. A lot of this really feels tacked on.
Yes, this is very loosey and goosey.
Yep. So who this is for, it's going to only be for hardcore gamers who really want to add complexity and feel like they are okay with additional setup and can barrel through the rules just fine or whatever. But yeah, this is not an expansion I would recommend for most people who enjoy the base game.
Yes.
Okay, that's everything.
All right, and Sarah, since we're opening doors and letting people stay at the tavern, and now we're more of an inn, what do you call your most luxurious suite in the Happy Unicorn?
It would be I think I'm torn between the Sunshine Room and no, I guess I'll go with Sunshine Room. Because I was thinking the Cloud Room, but that might be negative, cloudy. People don't want to be in a cloud room. So, Sunshine Room. You?
The Crater.
Oh, right. The Moon.
Moon-U.
Moon-U is the name of your tavern.
Big Cheese is my drink.
Right.
And now you sleep in the Crater.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yes. And we've been rolling with more. And remember, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can reach out to us on the various social media platforms at
Rolling with Two. That's TWO. We are on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And on YouTube, please like and subscribe.
And if you have time, check out the other content Nanaman has found for you, because remember, he's rolling with you.